Hello, my friends. All right. I haven't put out a bunch of videos in a while. I haven't put out any. I've been kind of focusing on myself, my health, my exercise regimen. But I just saw something on YouTube, two videos that just irritated the crap out of me, and a couple of other videos that mildly irritated me because it's a little thing, it's a little lacking, and just merely knowing this will give you all kinds of techniques you can do. It'll make your offense and defense so much better if you're a young fighter, a recreational martial artist, or just someone who likes to get in there and spar. All right. Number one, I saw a Fight Tips video with Sean Faison about the Philly shell. And then there was one by Jeff Chan, a very recent one, where he tested out the different guards. But, I mean, Jeff, you really don't understand high guard and you don't understand Philly shell. I think you haven't really gone to a boxing gym and just gotten coaching from good boxing coaches that are worth their salt. And it's a little thing. It's a little thing. And I watched a couple of other people, and they all have the same erroneous idea. First of all, the high guard is not your hands up around your eyebrows. Okay, you restrict your field of vision, and this is not a great offensive position, even if my body is bladed. First of all, the front of my face, where the nose, the mouth, the yin tong point, and most of the eyes are not covered. My chin is not covered. It's not a great idea, right? Even if I'm standing fairly square, I want my shoulder forward, which helps move my chin down. Now, I want my hands below the level of my eyes. Getting punched in the cheekbone doesn't feel good, but it's not that lethal. All right? You automatically are covering your jaw, but you've got maximal field of vision. All right? And it's a slight movement to cover. All right? And if you're like this, you're a little bit less responsive, and the tendency is for elbows to flare when you get tired. Whereas if you're like this, I feel many people feel it's just easier to keep the hands down, and now I can protect the chin, right? And if you've got your hands open, it's actually quite easy. High guard isn't so much a guard, it's an offensive defensive position. Another thing is you don't want to hide like a turtle behind your hands. That's something you do when someone's flurrying on you, but when you're moving, in the military we called it movement to contact, right? You're on a patrol, you're getting ready to assault, you're on a forced march, but now there's a higher state of readiness, the weapons are out. You want the front hand not so much pointing to the sky. You want it a little bit forward. And now the the fist, part of the fist begins to point towards your opponent, and it's easy to flick that hand out, right? Same thing with your cross. Your rear hand, like in the Philly shell, is more your defensive hand, especially if you've got it up. Okay, so high guard. And Jeff Chan, I like you, man. I like your energy and your willingness to get in there and spar everybody and teach everybody. You're a phenomenal martial artist. But man, have you got some horrible habits. You have a habit of darting in with the right cross, and this hand flings out all the way behind you like you're doing a Shaolin long fist form. Um, I don't know where you got that from. Maybe you were imitating Dominic Cruz, but I mean, bro, I've seen it go wrong for you over and over again in sparring. You're kind of reliant on your head movement with all these wide flinging motions, but uh, you know, go to a boxing gym, learn how to box. Go up and down the coasts, right? The coasts seem to be where a lot of this knowledge is at. Not so much the Midwest, not so much Canada. Of course, that's a generalization. I'm not saying everywhere. I know Chicago and St. Louis has got a lot of that, but you really you give a lot of information on boxing. I feel like you should learn how to box from a boxing coach that is just really good at it. And I think you're going to find it more in New Jersey and New York City and Chicago and San Diego or something like that. All right. And I think your home base is out of New York City. And it baffles me that you don't appear to care about learning how to box properly. Okay. And I think it's a limitation you're hitting in your career. And the stuff I'm talking about is boxing 101. Now, the shell. Multiple YouTubers seem to think you can't kick out of the shell. Bill freaking Wallace. Say this with me. Bill Wallace. Bill Wallace. Bill Wallace. Now say it with me. Don the Dragon Wilson. Don the Dragon Wilson. Don the Dragon Wilson. And another name is Curtis Bush. In the 80s and 90s, pretty much from 1980 to early 90s and a little bit beyond, people fought out of the Philly shell. You can kick fantastically with your front leg. You can do front round hook side. And you can employ your back leg. I've seen plenty of fighters fight out of it. And this belief that you can't deal with leg kicks from a bladed stance. First of all, Don the Dragon Wilson, quite a few others fought in WK fights where you could kick the legs, and they fought from the shell and they won titles with it. Number two, the bladed stance. First of all, you're allowed to pick up your leg. When people come in to leg kick you, you can do a front leg back kick. You can do a front leg side kick. You can pick it up even from a lot of people don't know this. Your body is kind of funky. In a bladed stance, you can draw back, pick up the leg, and do a front leg front kick or teep if you like. Right? I'm 55, okay, and I'm not svelte or light. I can do those maneuvers. All right. It's not that hard. Okay. Secondarily, you can do this thing in a bladed stance. I It's gonna sound bad. There's just a certain aspect of martial arts on the East Coast I call black fu. The black fighters, the African American fighters, pioneer certain things. They took the Bill Wallace influence, and many people fight out of the Philly shell in boxing gyms in New Jersey, and they use their boxing knowledge, and then they find tricks. Okay, I've seen several African American fighters get in the bladed stance, and then when you start leg kicking them, they get in, like almost like instead of swinging into a right cross where they're fully pivoted on the ball, the back foot and front foot's flat, they reverse that stance. It's not quite a reverse bow, it's a reverse pivot, almost like you're swinging a baseball bat behind you, but your eyes are looking over there. And from there, anytime someone leg kicks, they just back kick with the front leg. Yes, you can do a front leg back kick. Kenpo people have been doing it forever. Kaju Kempo people have been doing it forever. And let me tell you something, in self-defense, if you're facing a leg kicker, if you're facing a Muay Thai guy, especially if you have a Kung Fu or Kenpo background, just do a back kick to the crotch, to the support leg, or scoop that groin with a rising heel scoop. Okay? And you'll hit every time. You'll hit every time. When someone throws a back kick, and you're not just bladed, you're pretty much already pivoted. It's actually bait. If you aim low enough, you're going to hit that center each and every time someone low kicks. All right? And you're also, people are like, well, you can't pick up the leg to check. You can actually pick up the leg and kick over their low kick. I'm not saying it's just going to work forever. Also, again, I have a Kung Fu background. In Kung Fu, we have a guardian stance where the front hand is up here and the front hand is down open, either pointing towards the opponent or side. It's basically in a shell, but the front hand's open. All right. And we fought out of that a little bit forward facing, almost like a neutral bow in Kenpo or even a boxing stance. And yet you can quickly shoulder roll. We would pivot into it in our trapping hands and, palm strikes and finger strikes and grabs. You can actually enter into grappling from it, okay? It's still a valid defensive position, even if you're not completely bladed. And it's fairly easy to go from bladed to half facing to forward facing. It can be done. It's not impossible. Again, I'm 55 years old, not a skinny guy. Okay, I've got arthritis in both knees. I have damage from a fast roping accident in the Marine Corps to my sciatic nerves to my back. I can do all these maneuvers. I can do them at speed. And both legs, I can still kick head high in most of my kicks. I mean, my right leg is better for standing and pivoting off of, and so I like to do my high hook kick with my left foot. But I can still side kick on my right foot because the left hip and the left knee have been torn and fixed. I can still do a side kick around rib height, chest height. I can roundhouse kick pretty high and get to the face height, but not as much of a pivot. And my hook kicks are like solar plexus or rib level, okay? But I can do all these maneuvers. Guys like Jeff Chan, Sean Faison, Sensei Seth, you can actually do these maneuvers. And what you think of as a limitation from the Philly shell, it's not. And guess what? Even if you're completely bladed, we have a concept we call opening the door. If you're in a bladed stance, basically a horse stance, could be wide, could be narrow, one little pivot of the front foot, even though you're bladed, you can launch any rear hand technique, cross, ridge hand, palm, any back leg, front kick, roundhouse kick, teep, heel thrust, axe kick, or from here, if you simply pivot like this, front leg, these are the toes, you can do a spinning back kick, a spinning hook kick, and from that pivot, you can shoulder roll. Folks, it's an illusion to think that the Philly shell is useless for kickboxing. It's extremely useful, even with leg kicks. Bill Wallace, in the early days of the PKA, whenever someone closed with him, for a while they were letting you do judo throws. So if you would immediately transition into a shoulder throw, the minute his front hand clashed with his opponent, sometimes a hip throw, he could also do sweeps, okay, and he could jam with this side and then move his other side and hook the neck, and next thing you know, he's got a hip toss or a shoulder throw by doing an underhook. And guess what? Judo will apply to the Philly shell, whether it's side facing or whether it's forward facing. It is actually not that difficult. Now, I understand in grappling, if you're going to fight bladed, there is a vulnerability. But I've been in jiu-jitsu. I did 2 years of Brazilian jiu-jitsu. I have a black belt in Japanese jiu-jitsu, right? And I have seen, experienced Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belts that are on the taller side stand bladed, and then you come in and they do a judo ashibarai, a basic foot sweep with their lead leg. They kind of bait you in. Well, guess what? If you were to grapple bladed, especially standing grappling, you could get good at defending against takedowns. If you can defend against a double leg, it's only a hop, skip, and a jump. It's more of a skip to counter a leg kick. Same level attack, right? I'm not saying this to disparage this, but I feel like there's a cultural amnesia in the martial art and fight game that some people like Sensei Seth and especially Jesse Enkamp are doing their part to try to overcome and try to get past it. I mean, it's not that hard to modify things. Half the kickboxers in the 80s at one time or another transitioned into a Philly shell, and they did it mostly to kick with. Am I making sense? Look up Don the Dragon Wilson. Don't take my words for it. Watch his fights. Watch Bill Wallace's fights. Watch Curtis Bush. Um, Look around, and Bill Wallace produces an excellent power fighting video, which is available for free on YouTube. Stuff we used to pay $60 and $70 for a pop are available. Sometimes 6, 7, 10 videos right now for free. They're like public domain. So you don't have an excuse to not know this. And if you're going to talk about a particular guard, a particular stance, and say it's useless, even though it's not, it's on you to fix that gap in your knowledge. You're young people, you're dynamic. Us old guys like me, we're still going to practice as long as I can, till the day I die if I can. And I don't want that to be anytime soon. But you young people, it's on you to look at what was out there, to seek out that knowledge and incorporate it. Because if you're speaking out of ignorance, you're saying ignorant things. And what I can tell you from watching many of you newer generation YouTubers spar is you have talent, you have skill, you actually have big gaps in your knowledge, and it's easy to fix. The same medium you're using to popularize yourselves and put out your message and your knowledge, which I respect. I look at your videos and I practice what I see there all the time, just for the sheer joy of learning something new. But you can use that same medium to educate yourselves and be less ignorant about things you're condemning without knowledge of them. Because remember this, condemnation without investigation is ignorance. But if you're condemning and someone guides you into how you could investigate it and you don't do it anyway, it's not just ignorance, it's willful ignorance, and it's stupid. And I don't think you guys are stupid. That's all I need to say. Have a good day.